Hey everyone, and welcome back to Terminal Disclosure, your weekly deep dive into the ever-evolving world of tech and hacking stories. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm excited to get into today's topic, which frankly is pretty concerning. We're talking about a major data breach at the UK Ministry of Defence, suspected to be the work of Russian hackers. This isn't just about stolen data, it's about national security, personal privacy, and the increasingly sophisticated cyber warfare we're seeing in the 21st century. Now I know what you're thinking, another data breach, what's the big deal? Well, buckle up because this one has some serious implications. In this episode, we're going to break down exactly what happened, who's likely responsible, why it matters, and most importantly, what we can learn from it to better protect ourselves and our organizations. Think of it as your guide to understanding the latest cyber warfare tactics and how to defend against them. Let's get started. So let's jump right in. What exactly happened at the UK Ministry of Defence? The story broke in May of 2024, and the details are still emerging, but here's the gist. Personal data of potentially 270,000 service personnel, both current and former members of the Royal Navy, Army, and Royal Air Force, was accessed through a cyber espionage operation. Think names, bank details, and in a small number of cases, even personal addresses. That's a lot of sensitive information exposed. Now, to be clear, officials stated no operational data was compromised, but given the type of information accessed, the potential for damage is still considerable. The breach itself targeted a third-party contractor responsible for managing the MoD's payroll system. This is a crucial detail, and we'll circle back to it later when we discuss supply chain vulnerabilities. But the key takeaway here is that the hackers didn't directly breach the MoD's core systems. They went through a side door, exploiting a weakness in a vendor's security. Now the immediate response from the MoD was swift. They took the compromised system offline, launched a full investigation, and began notifying all affected personnel. Understandably, a multi-point plan was created to try and protect the service members. Now, before we move on, I want to pose a question for you to think about. How confident are you in the security of the vendors your organization uses? Do you know where your data is being stored and who has access to it? This breach is a stark reminder that security is only as strong as the weakest link in your supply chain. Okay, so who's behind this attack? Officially, the UK government is being cautious, but the finger is definitely pointing toward Russia. While no official attribution has been made, many members of parliament have suggested China as the perpetrator, citing its history of cyber espionage. Defense Minister Grant Shapps stated that ministers did not believe data had been stolen, but could not rule out the involvement of a foreign state. But based on various sources and the type of attack, Russian state-sponsored hacking groups, particularly Fancy Bear, also known as APT-28, are prime suspects. Why Russia? Well, let's dive into that. Russia has a well-documented history of cyber espionage and aggression, particularly targeting Western governments and critical infrastructure. Groups like Fancy Bear are known for their sophisticated techniques and their close ties to the Russian government. This group has been linked to widespread hacks targeting German infrastructure, government, and private industry. Russia has been rapidly expanding its cyber espionage operations, including going after NATO member states. There are other potential actors, as we know. The UK government is urging caution regarding blaming China, even though a potentially Chinese actor may have been involved. Now, the breach potentially impacted 270,000 service personnel, signaling a disquieting vulnerability. Remember also, just weeks after this MoD breach, the Lockbit ransomware group, a group with known links to Russia, claimed responsibility for a cyberattack on Zon Limited, a British high-security fencing supplier. They published thousands of pages of sensitive information, including details on locations like the Clyde nuclear submarine base. This paints a clear picture. Russia has the capability and the motivation to target the UK with cyberattacks. But the motives for the MoD breach go beyond simply stealing data. This is about gaining strategic advantage and undermining trust in government institutions. Accessing military personnel information could reveal troop movements, deployments, and even the identities of undercover agents. Stolen financial data put service members at risk of identity theft and fraud. And perhaps most insidiously, a successful state-sponsored attack like this can erode public confidence in government institutions and sow discord within society. Think about it. If you were a service member whose personal data was compromised, how would you feel about the government's ability to protect you? How would you feel about the security of your country? This breach wasn't just about stealing data, it was about psychological warfare. So to recap, we've got a breach targeting a payroll system managed by a third-party contractor, a high likelihood of Russian involvement, and a range of motives from espionage to sowing discord. What's next? Now let's zoom out a bit and put this MoD breach into a broader context. This isn't just an isolated incident, it's part of a disturbing trend of state-sponsored cyberattacks targeting critical infrastructure and sensitive data. The SolarWinds hack of 2020, which we've covered on this podcast before, is a prime example. In that case, Russian hackers compromised a widely used software platform, giving them access to thousands of organizations, including multiple U.S. government agencies. Similarly, the 2014 breach of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, or OPM, which affected 22.1 million individuals. China was identified as the perpetrator in this breach. These attacks share several common threads. They target third-party vendors, they exploit vulnerabilities in widely used software, and they're often attributed to nation-state actors. What does this tell us? It tells us that our adversaries are increasingly sophisticated and that they're willing to play the long game. They're not just looking for quick wins, they're looking for ways to gain persistent access to sensitive systems and data. Now, something to consider. There have been recent reports of a Russian hybrid warfare campaign, with increased cyber warfare activities by Russia against NATO member states, particularly the UK, and the strategic responses being developed to counter these threats. The UK is increasing its focus on cybersecurity, including forming the Laboratory for AI Security Research with £8.22 million in government funding to enhance its cyber defense capabilities. This brings us to a critical concept: supply chain security. The MoD breach, like the SolarWinds hack, highlights the vulnerability of organizations that rely on third-party vendors. These third parties often have access to sensitive data and systems, and if their security is weak, they can become a backdoor for attackers. This is why supply chain security has become a major concern in recent years, and it's why organizations need to take a much more proactive approach to vetting and monitoring their vendors. As a point of review, consider the SolarWinds hack. A supply chain attack occurred in 2020, attributed to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, affecting numerous organizations worldwide, including US and UK government agencies, NATO, and the European Parliament. The attack exploited vulnerabilities from Microsoft, SolarWinds, and VMware. What can be done? Let's talk about it. So what can we learn from the MoD breach, and what steps can organizations take to better protect themselves? First and foremost, it's crucial to understand the importance of risk management. That means identifying your most critical assets, your crown jewels, as some security experts call them, and focusing your security efforts on protecting those assets. It also means regularly assessing your vulnerabilities and threat landscape. What are your weaknesses? What are the most likely attack vectors? What are your adversaries after? Remember Zon Limited. The NCSC and the ICO were contacted after the breach from the Lockbit ransomware group. Mark Semenenko with Immuta highlighted the need for attribute-based access control to limit the risk of human error data breaches. It was also emphasized that the breach occurred due to a rogue Windows 7 PC, for which support ended in January 2020. This leads us to the next crucial step: implementing robust security controls. That means things like multi-factor authentication, strong password policies, regular software updates, and network segmentation. Also, don't use Windows 7 if it's connected to the internet. It also means implementing robust monitoring and detection capabilities, so you can quickly identify and respond to suspicious activity. This often includes things like intrusion detection systems, security information and event management, or SIEM systems, and threat intelligence feeds. Finally, it's essential to vet your third-party vendors thoroughly. What are their security policies and procedures? Do they have a good track record? Can they demonstrate compliance with industry standards? Be sure to be more rigorous when understanding their practices, compliance, and stability. But perhaps the most important step is to foster a culture of security awareness within your organization. That means educating your employees about the threats they face and teaching them how to spot phishing scams, social engineering attacks, and other red flags. Remember, even the best security technology is useless if your employees aren't vigilant. It's like locking your front door but leaving the window open. If nothing else, these staff education programs are helpful to identify weak or stolen credentials, especially since it is the most common cause of breaches within UK businesses. Ultimately, the MoD breach is a wake-up call for all organizations. It's a reminder that cybersecurity is not just an IT issue. It's a business issue, a national security issue, and a personal issue. We need to be more vigilant, more proactive, and more collaborative in our efforts to protect ourselves from the ever-evolving cyber threat landscape. So to summarize, government procurement spend is a third of all UK government spending. Competition is a default approach for government procurement, and the government commercial function has established it as such. Unfortunately, poor quality of government's published data on contracts reduces transparency and makes it harder to identify and promote best practices. basic information is often missing or inconsistent. Alright, so what are some actionable steps you can take right now to improve your security posture? First, conduct a thorough risk assessment of your organization. Identify your critical assets, your vulnerabilities, and your threat landscape. Next, implement multi-factor authentication on all critical systems and accounts. This is one of the most effective ways to prevent unauthorized access. After that, update your software and systems regularly. Patching vulnerabilities is essential to preventing exploitation. Ensure vendors handling sensitive data meet stringent security standards. Provide cybersecurity training to your staff. Finally, develop and test an incident response plan. What will you do if you experience a breach? How will you contain the damage, notify affected parties, and restore your systems? This can be a huge step and help to mitigate damages. There is a lot that can be done, but that is the starting point. Take these steps, and you'll be well on your way to a more secure and resilient organization. The world of cybersecurity is constantly evolving, and it's crucial to stay informed and adapt to new threats. We need to be more vigilant, more proactive, and more collaborative in our efforts to protect ourselves. That brings us to the end of another episode of Terminal Disclosure. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the MoD breach and its implications. I hope you found this information helpful and thought-provoking. Before we sign off, I want to remind you to subscribe to our channel, Terminal Disclosure, so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. Your feedback helps us create better content and reach a wider audience. Got any thoughts? Let us know down in the comments. Next time, we're going to be taking a look at the latest advancements in AI-powered threat detection. We'll explore how artificial intelligence is being used to identify and respond to cyberattacks in real time, and what the future holds for this exciting technology. Until then, stay safe, stay secure, and keep your data locked down. You've been listening to Terminal Disclosure, and I'm Alex, signing off.